The first thing about creating your own webinar will be how to schedule and register. I'm sure a lot of you guys today have come in via a form of registration form that I've created. I'll show you in a moment how to get that started, but essentially there are a lot of pointers here, but I would like to touch on 4 major pointers on scheduling and setting up your own webinars. Right, the first is whether it's a recurring or non-recurring webinars, meaning are you planning to do it every day of the week for the next month, or just once every month, or just one time? This is something that you have to take note. The second point is, if you're, say, conducting a normal meeting and you wish to convert it into a webinar, this is also possible. In a Zoom meeting as well, you can designate alternative hosts. For example, I'm the main host of this meeting. Indra will be my alternative host. In the case of anything happens to me, Indra can easily take over this Zoom webinar. And lastly, the registration for meetings. Right, I'll just briefly divert your attention on how you can register and create your own Zoom webinar. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this Zoom registration form with our own branding designated. Let me just show you how it looks like from my end. Okay, so this will be the Zoom page itself, or we will call it the admin page. You must have a license account to see the settings and see this page. So once you have a license account for Zoom, scheduling a webinar will be as easily as tapping this button, schedule a webinar. So once you schedule a webinar, you are brought to the settings page for your webinar, where you can actually put in stuff like, okay, for example, what topic you want, and the description if you so choose to, a time and date for the webinar, the duration of the webinar, the time zone, and earlier, as I mentioned, whether it's a recurring or one-time affair, right? So in terms of recurrence, you can set daily, repeat every day, end date, or how many occurrences. Different webinars will differ differently. If you are wanting to have a registration in your Zoom webinar, you can just check registered, required, set a password for your webinar, a video for your host and panelists on and off, and audio settings. For these settings, you can just leave it on default. Don't worry about them for now. These are the options that I wanted to highlight to you guys. Do you want Q&A in your webinar? Do you want to enable practice session, or only authenticated users can join in or record? I'll go into these settings as we go on in the presentation later on. Don't worry about them too much. Just know that for now, these are good settings that you should set by default. For this Zoom webinar, I'll have the Q&A on so that you guys can interact with me. I'll enable a practice session so that I can rehearse before I actually start. And my alternative host for this Zoom webinar will be Indra. So you can just input Indra's information here. I'll show you now the settings for my Zoom webinar. So this is the Zoom demonstration by PixelStudio, description as such, and alternative host will be Indra, my password, my webinar options. Say, for example, if you require registration for your Zoom webinar, over here you can see, hey, you actually can further customize your invitation. For example, I have 2 tracking links here. One would be from SOE, which was the EDM that was pumped to you guys. So I can track from this simple registration link, how many registered viewers and how many visitors on my page. Say, for example, if I want to create another marketing link on Facebook, it will be just as simple as clicking add, then I'll put Facebook. And then the system gives me a link that I can copy and paste in Facebook to market my event. So this is something that you can easily do. And then you can track how many visitors are coming to your event or getting to know about your event from Facebook instead of from the normal SOE EDMs. For this Zoom webinars, I've set it to automatically approve any registrations. So in fact, all of you guys that have kindly registered for this webinar, your approval is actually done automatically. Of course, I have the options to go back and edit so that I can only approve once you guys registered manually each registration. So this is going to take me a lot of time. For now, I just set it to automatically approve. But as always, the settings is there for you. So that's about it for the registration page. Say you want to make this your very own webinar. You want to brand it differently. So under branding, you can set, hey, you want a nice banner that has the NLB logo. You have your title page. You want to have additional logos or speaker information. You can add them in here as well. All of these settings are fully customizable. If you're interested, more details will be in the links. If, say, for example, you want to add poll, at the very start of the beginning, you guys helped me in answering a very quick poll. This is also added when you're scheduling an event. You can also see and review the results of your poll. Live streaming. We are currently live streaming on our PixelStudio YouTube page. So this is where you come and set the settings for the streaming services, say, that you might wish to be subscribed to. So that's about it for scheduling your webinar. It's very simply just click of buttons.